Look at this map. This map shows tens of cities and towns that's been infiltrated by illegal immigrants. It looks even worse when you look into how many are coming in year after year. When you zoom in, you see in 2018 only 299 crossed illegally, but when you zoom out for recent days, you see numbers that can fill up a little town like Salisbury. These men are undocumented, largely because they destroy their passport on the way here and they label themselves as asylum seekers. And it works.
Why are the French doing this? It's such a cynical ploy.
The Home Office published data on the numbers of asylum seekers in a hotel by region and council. As of the end of June, London had the most asylum seekers in a hotel, followed by South East England and South West. And now the government is spreading them into places like Scampton, Manchester Road, Huddersfield, Manston and Portland Park, leaving the local resident worried for the community and their children.
300 guys?
We don't know anything about them.
In this video, my goal is to understand how the number got this high and what the British government are doing to keep the British people happy with their decision in letting unvetted men take over a hotel often close to a primary school, and why we can't send these guys back. Hey, before we start this video, I want to say a massive thank you. Thank you for clicking on this video, by the way. If you can leave a comment and like and subscribe if you haven't, I'll really appreciate that. And also, if you want to keep me on air and keep me reporting, making these videos, because it takes a lot of time and researching and getting people on a call back and forth. It takes a couple months or weeks to get these videos fully done and posted. So if you want to support my work, you can support me on Patreon. Going to be right here, Next Frontier Media. You can support me there, and I'll see you there. And without further ado, let's get back to this video where we talk about the migration crisis here in the UK. Let's do it.
Okay, so I'm going to have to go back a little bit and just to make you think a little bit about what you do and don't know.
That's Robert. It's a deputy director and head of media and communication at Migration Observatory, and also works for Oxford University. I brought him on so he can tell me what the heck is going on, since he knows more than me, so then I can tell the story better to you guys. So to understand this issue, we have to go all the way back to 1999, so then we can actually get a full picture of how we got here.
So what you know about it at the moment is data on small boat arrivals, right? Okay, now that's one form of access to the UK, and it's a very visible form of access to the UK, right? And small boat arrivals in the UK didn't really start happening in any significant numbers until after 2018, right? That's not the only way that people come into the UK without permission. So people have been coming into the UK without permission, you know, for as long as we've had border controls of one sort or another. We had large numbers of people arriving in the UK regularly, but we didn't know, but there wasn't a way of measuring it, right? There wasn't a way of knowing how many people were coming in. So in particular, there was a big issue around about 99, 2000, 2001 with people entering the UK on the back of the Eurostar, right? So climbing over fences, getting onto the Eurostar, getting into the UK that way, right? And using the Channel Tunnel basically as a means of accessing the UK. And in particular, there was a very big sort of diplomatic sort of spat between France and the UK on the basis that France had opened the French Red Cross had opened a camp at a place called Sangatte, which is just it's just near Calais, right? And it's very, very close to the Eurostar tunnel.
Sangatte was the location of refugee camp that was set up by the French Red Cross in 1999. As soon as it opened, there was an influx of migrants in the camp. Some just seeking asylum from the French government, but others were attempting to come to the United Kingdom. They were mainly from Afghanistan, Iraq and Albania. A few months later, the camp grew in population, having different people around the world. People started setting up shops, restaurants, hairdressers, school, places of worship and even boxing clubs. Yeah, they was having a lot of fun, right? Then rapidly the camp started looking like this. And they gained a new name, a name that changed Calais forever. And that name was the Jungle Calais.
This is not a refugee camp in Africa. This is Jungle Camp in Calais.
That name grew in the media very quickly. In September 2016, the French government announced that it was going to close the Jungle Calais. And that would be the end of it. The refugees were informed of the government's decision through distribution of thousands of leaflets throughout the jungle. And those people were not happy. There was a lot of fights, a lot of fire, and a lot of riots. After the closure of the jungle, migrants stayed around Calais while they attempted to enter the United Kingdom, or while they waited for their French asylum claim to be processed.
Very, very soon afterwards, there were people sleeping in the fields, right? Because the people that wanted to come to the UK would still collect around Calais, right? Now, a very, very important thing to remember here is that this is not unique to the UK. The UK, compared to other European countries, doesn't have a particularly high number of refugees and asylum seekers, right? Every other European country has also got large numbers of refugees and asylum seekers. There is a self-selected group of people that want to get into the UK, the people that have said, my destination is the UK, and if your destination is the UK, you don't have access to, you can't fly into the UK, you can't buy an airline ticket if you don't have a visa, right? And you're not, if you're going to be claiming asylum in the UK, it's pretty likely you're not going to have a visa, right? So the only way to get in is to find a way to enter the country and then claim asylum when you're on British soil, right? And so anybody who wants to do that will generally collect in northern France because that's the place where you get into.
During the same time, there was something else happening in the UK. Something big. People in the UK were voting in a referendum to remove themselves from the EU, to take control of their borders.
Ladies and gentlemen, dare to dream that the dawn is breaking on an independent United Kingdom. You all laughed at me. Well, I have to say, you're not laughing now, are you?
While everybody was celebrating Brexit, Nigel Farage, but there was something else changing within the channel. This is where it gets worse. And this is probably the reason why we got here today. The first migrant to have been recorded landing in the UK by a small boat was on 31st January 2018, when 7 people crossed in a single boat. That year alone, 299 people crossed. That's when everybody was awake to the new threat. The people coming in the boats.
Stop the fucking boats! Get them out of them hotels! Get them gone!
We don't know anything about them. We have no idea what they are capable of doing.
If you look at the people who came in that year, 238 are from Iran, followed by 33 from Iraq, 16 Albanians, 4 Ukrainians, 4 Vietnamese, 3 Afghanistan, and 1 from Syria. But there was still a silver lining to this problem, because that year, Britain returned over 536 people back to France. And the reason being was the Dublin III regulation. The Dublin III regulation's purpose was to ensure that an asylum application is only considered by one of the participating states in the EU, plus Iceland, Norway and Switzerland. It sets an hierarchy determining which states should be responsible for processing an asylum application, but it also gives greater importance to family reunion than which country an asylum seeker first entered. The regulation also sets out transfer process and time scale. In 2018, the British government stated in a migration white paper that they were intended to stay in Dublin III regulation after Brexit. So Dublin III regulation was actually a good thing for Britain, because if somebody comes from France or Germany, if they've applied there, they can't stay here because we can just send them back to Germany or send them back to the first EU country that they first applied But look at this graph where it shows the numbers of outgoing requests for Dublin transfer made by the UK during the period of 2012 and 2017. The effectiveness from the system from the UK's point of view declined dramatically in recent years. Home Office statistics revealed that while there were a total of 676 returns of asylum seekers from the UK to other European countries under this rule, in 2016 and 2017, 1,019 asylum seekers were transferred into the UK. The figures reveal that the balance had shifted because when you look in 2015, over 131 people were transferred into UK and over 530 people were transferred out. So that's a good deal. But what happened? What changed? How come more people are coming in? So this Dublin 3 regulation did not look good at the very end of Brexit. After December 2021, the UK could not use the Dublin regulation to return asylum seekers who travelled from the EU member states. And this is where it gets ugly because the numbers of people who cross next will shock you. On one day in January, 271 migrants crossed the channel. In March 2022, more than 3,000 people arrived in a small boat, making it 4,559 crossings so far that year. That's in March. That's just in March. What is going on? In April, Boris Johnson announced the Rwanda scheme in an attempt to scare people from making the crossing. But it didn't work because this is what happened next. In the first week of August, 1,886 people crossed the channel. By August 14, the government figure shows that 20,000 people had crossed the channel in a small boat since the start of that year. They stated that 60,000 people were expected to make the crossing in 2022. 8 days later, 22nd of August, a total of 1,295 migrants crossed the channel in 27 boats in one day, setting the biggest record that year. I mean, 27 boats? That's a lot. I mean, that's scary. But it happened. At the end of that year, the BBC reported that over 45,000 people crossed that one single year, making it one of the biggest ever that's been recorded to date. The people who came in that year were largely Albanians, Afghanistan, followed by Iran and Iraqis. This demographic was very different from 2018. And I think we need to understand why. How come did Albanians just take over Iran? What motivated them? Because over 12,000 Albanians crossed that one single year. So what changed?
This is what appears to have happened is that there was what you might call a sort of speculative bubble that happened in Albania, where I think on TikTok or one of the other social media platforms, and this is what sort of is being asserted by experts in this field, that a bunch of people who were working irregularly in the UK from Albania, and people who were working regularly, working in the grey economy, in car washes, cannabis farms, this sort of thing, were sort of flaunting money and success in the UK, and that people attempted to this became sort of something that a lot of people who were doing fairly badly in Albania sort of started to see this and thought, oh, if we can get into the UK, then we can make some good money, right? And so all of a sudden, right, so this kind of like what appears to have been a sort of social media phenomenon took off, and large numbers of people from Albania began to arrive in the UK. I mean, there was a consistent number of people using small boats from other countries, carried on at the same sorts of levels. It didn't radically change in 2022, but suddenly Albanians went from hardly any to masses. I mean, it was something like 20,000 in a couple of quarters.
So all these people came in after Brexit. Is there any sort of reason? Is there any correlation? Is there?
Is what the number of people who were crossing that weren't arriving in small boats beforehand. You don't know the number of people that are crossing that aren't coming in small boats now, right? And actually, now we're in a situation where the majority of asylum applications are from people who did not arrive in small boats. So how did they get into the UK, right?
To understand the cause of illegal migration here in the UK, we first have to understand the problem that we have in our hand. And that problem is, how many are there in here? Is it 200? Is it 500? Is it thousands? Is it million? I mean, we have to understand how many of them are in this country. Look at this report that was posted by the Telegraph. I mean, it kind of gives it out, right? Is that true? Let's read it. Great Britain is becoming a more favorable home for illegal migrants. A new study has found that there's up to 745,000 illegal migrants here in the UK. That means if you've seen 100 people last few days, that means one of them is probably likely to be here illegally. According to research led by Oxford University experts, this is more than double the 3,000 in France and ahead of 700 estimated in Germany, which has the second largest of illegal migrants. And Britain happened to fall at the very top now, after fighting very hard for Brexit. So did Brexit do anything? 745,000 people, that's a lot. That is so many people. And that is just how much the government managed to count themselves. But experts are suggesting that there could be more people that the government didn't count or couldn't get to count them. These are the people who are probably utilizing the public funded services that we have here in the UK. Housing and state school, NHS, translator, A&E, GP, dentist appointment, all these sort of things that they can apply for. And my question is to you, how much is this costing the taxpayer? So I'm gonna go to the government website with you right now, so we can actually find out like how much is it actually costing. So we're on the government website right now. The first subject title is, why do we need asylum accommodation sites? And they answered it by saying the numbers of people who are arriving in the UK who require accommodation has put our asylum system under incredible strain. Okay, I mean, maybe we could house the 300,000 homeless people we have in our street right now. But we're probably not gonna do that, right? So why are we housing them? So I just read the next subtitle and I think that's gonna shock you. Brace yourself for an impact. Come in. Well, this is how much they charge you to house these guys, and this is how much they spend on them. The hotel accommodation that has cost over £8 million a day. £8 million a day? What the heck? Was always intended as a temporary solution necessary to meet our statutory obligation to accommodate asylum seekers who would otherwise be in destitute. Why are they using that word? Is it because they want to justify why they have to spend this much on these guys? I mean, destitute. Where do you use that word? I mean, you use that word in like a third world country, right? But this is Great Britain. Nobody should be living in destitute. Is that because they want to justify why they're spending the money? Why they're spending £8 million a day to people who they don't even know? Destitute. It's an interesting word, right? So I want to end this video by highlighting how the British government is treating the local resident, the British citizens, the people who contribute to the land, the people who follow the law, the guys who have everything to give to the land. Here's how they're treating them. So there's a question at the very end of this website that says, can the Home Office provide a compensation for any loss in property value? Here's how the government answered that question. The Home Office appreciates the concerns of local residents and will continue to collaborate with the key stakeholder to lessen the impact of using the Manchester Road site on the local community. However, the Home Office does not intend to offer compensation for any loss in property value. Wow. Oh, all right. I mean, you've seen it here. All this information is publicly out there for you to go and find. That's how the British government is treating the people in the UK over the people who they don't know, the people who come from different sort of places in the world. Illegally as well. So at the start I said I wanted to understand how the number got this high, and I showed you why and how they got this high. Some people might say, yeah, it's Brexit. Hey, I just did my research and I put it out there for you to make your own mind. Some people might say it's the Dublin Agreement, it's the Dublin Regulation Agreement. Hey, I don't know, make up your mind as well. And decided I'm going to look into how they're keeping the British people happy. You can clearly see they're not even trying to keep the local resident happy with their decisions. They're just making decisions and people just have to go on with it, which for me I think is not very democratic. But hey, those are the information I just report it to you, and you gotta do what you gotta do with it. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. As I mentioned at the start, if you want to support my work, you can always go to Patreon. It's going to be right here, you can see on the screen, and also it's going to be in the first link in the description. If you can go there and support my work, that'd be really good, because I love what I'm doing and it's hard to keep going, especially if the lights needs to be on. Bye bye.